But essentially it makes a post request to an Azure function. Now, inside of this Azure function is a GPT-4 wrapper, which effectively takes a ticket ID, which we saw in the previous step. It posts it to this function. This function just throws this to Azure-OpenAI. It gets all of the relevant information, like I mentioned before, such as existing tickets, documentation, looks at the World Wide Web, to come up with a response, right? So the body of the request is just a ticket ID. Then the response looks something like this. So it might look a bit technical, but it's pretty simple to understand. The response looks something like this. It returns an answer object. It returns maybe similar tickets that could have helped it in coming up with an answer. Sources, which is helpful. Maybe there was specific documentation that really helped in coming up with an answer for this problem. And it also gives me back the ticket ID, although I think, maybe we should change that because it's absolutely pointless. Then what I can do when I pass this JSON, that means I can take every individual object and return it back to PVA. So I could see here, I can now take the answer object, and I can take the sources object, and I can return it back to Power Virtual Agents. And if I go back to my flow, you could see here, Power Automate Outputs gives answer, which comes in text, and sources. So now, is that now starting to make sense about how Power Virtual Agents can interact with Power Automate flows? It's really powerful. And then what happens is we simply trigger a couple of messages, which is an answer and a sources. And so the answer is this thing here. And then I use the following sources to help me. And we put a dynamic placeholder here, which is sources. So I use the following sources to help me, this document, this document. And then it asks, how would you, I guess this last bit is just a bit of fun. How would you rate this answer from 1 to 5? And then we call actually another flow. And all this flow does is if we go to this flow and edit, all it does is it just makes another HTTP request. So it takes in the answer from chat MSP, takes in the user rating, the ticket ID. It makes a post request to another function, well, to the same function, but a different endpoint called add notion entry. And it simply adds an entry in our database, just for feedback purposes. So it's helpful to know. So you can see in this entire workflow, we have a highly trained Power Virtual Agent bot that is able to serve a specific client. So let's have a look. So we have a question. Yeah, so, okay, question from Dinesh on the chat, and then I'll come to you two here in a second. So a product support. So the question from Dinesh is a product support ticket and their responses are proprietary. Uploading it to GPT-4 doesn't breach compliance. So that's a good question. The way you need to think about it is a customer's, let's say, ticket information, as well as their documentation, has to be actually amalgamated into a vectorized format, which is not just a bunch of text. At that point, you are not giving GPT-4 a bunch of text to understand. You are giving it small pieces of vectors to understand on how to generate a response. So in the actual GPT-4 call, we're not sending all of the documentation. We're not sending all of the existing tickets that has existed. All we are doing is giving it inside the prompt. We're giving it information about similar tickets that have occurred. And that's what's called semantic similarity happens outside of GPT-4. So all you're giving to GPT-4 is a highly generic prompt that is specific to a customer, but GPT-4 doesn't have any existing reference to existing tickets or documentation. So that's how you get around the compliance problem. So Tuhid, you have a question. So clearly I can see that the integration of Power PVAs with other Power Platform tools like Power Automate benefit businesses. which brings me to a question based on the ticket system example. What type of analytics and reporting capabilities are available for Power Virtual Agents? Great question. And there is a very simple answer to that, which is this button here, Analytics. It is that simple. So in a snapshot, if I was to deploy this bot to a customer, I would be able to see how many sessions have occurred, how many people have engaged with the product. I could see actually pretty detailed analytics about the use of this this product, and I could see that I can see which flows are getting triggered. So we have two flows here, or two main topics. The first is greeting, hello. The second is resolve ticket, which is resolve ticket. I can even see topic triggering, which is not here. This feature checks for similarities, so I won't go over this. Customer satisfaction, I haven't seen this one before. Sessions, okay, I could see how many sessions we have. And then billing, we could just see how many build sessions we have. But summary is really the main page where you can see all of the analytics. And I could also see the escalation rate, which is the percentage of sessions which actually end in escalating to a human. So if, let's say, if this bot is not resolving the issue, you can escalate this to a human. So Tuhin, does that answer your question? Is this the type of analytics that you were trying to gauge about these bots? I will assume it does. But anyway, okay, so great. We built our Power Virtual Agent, and that's fantastic. But the issue is it still needs to be in a customer's hands. It still needs to be used by someone in a useful way. Now, the other great thing about PVAs is if you go to publish, you can you can publish your bot, but you can also configure channels, which is great. It means you could deploy your bot to Microsoft Teams. You could deploy it to a demo website, custom website, a bunch of things. And if I go to demo website, I could go here, paste the link, and I could see I have Chat MSP here right in the demo website, right? It would be able to respond in the same way, right? That's a great channel to have it. Now, what about if I want to have this? What about if I want to make this available across my entire team, so my entire team can benefit from this? Well, I can just go ahead and publish this on Microsoft Teams, and you can see here it's already got name Chat MSP. I can click Open Bot, open Microsoft Teams, and voila. Oh, what happened there? Open Bot, open Microsoft Teams. Fantastic. We have Chat MSP, which I can add directly to Teams. And great, I could say, I can chat with it directly within Teams. So now everyone now has access to a powerful bot, which is embedded directly within Microsoft Teams. Like, how amazing is that? You can publish this to many channels at once, and I can interact with this. I can share this bot with other team members, so it's now useful. You know, a lot of managed service providers work within Teams every day, so this now becomes a useful channel to communicate with a PVA bot. But that is essentially this bot and how to build it from scratch. Was there any other questions about this specifically before we go to wrapping this up? No. Oh, we have another question. We have someone else's hand is raised. Tuhin, it looks like your hand is raised still. Do you have another question? So can Power Virtual Agents be used for voice-enabled chatbots in addition to text-based? That's a great question, actually. So it depends. I don't believe, I'll need to check that, but I don't believe that they could take as input a voice. I mean, you could definitely build, you could definitely build, you could probably build a custom bot which takes voice as input. Whether that's available through Power Virtual Agents, I'm not entirely sure. So what kind of license will be required for PVA? For channel, do we need separate licenses? So you can get started with PVAs for free. So you can see here, yeah, I have a free trial that expires in 8 days. If I look at the pricing, you can have a look at the pricing, which is really readily available on their website somewhere. Let's have a look. Okay, maybe I'll find a pricing link and get it, but you can definitely try it out for free for a period of time. So Kasam asked, anything around Azure functions it's calling? So yes, actually, in the topic resolve ticket, we have 2 Power Automate flows. They both call an Azure function. So that's pretty important to note. Both of these call an Azure function. So if I go into view flow details, you can see here, if I click edit to see what's going on underneath this flow, it's making a HTTP post request to a function, which is enabled here. Function Neo Agent. Why was it Neo Agent? We thought, the original name would be Neo. But you can see the endpoint here is resolve ticket. And if I go to Azure Functions itself, let's see if I can do that. Oh, I might have to sign in again. If I go to Azure Functions and I go, we've created a function app called Neo Agent. And here we have the URL. Now, inside of the function script, we have an endpoint, which is resolve tickets. All that does simply is it takes in ingest tickets and it spits out a response. That's all it does. So yeah, Azure, when we're making HTTP post requests, I do like Azure Functions. You could also deploy simple apps to Azure App Services, but yeah, that's also an option. So we have another question from Dinesh. So OpenAI can already respond to answer the questions chat based on my data set. Why we needed Power Virtual Agent on top. Okay, so yes, good question. So it can actually, based on your data set, it can answer questions about it. But what we're doing here is we are actually deploying a seamless workflow. We're deploying a seamless workflow that can work with an existing system, which is an ITSM solution here. And OpenAI does not have access to an MSP's ITSM solution. It does not. So what we are doing here is we are cleverly using Power Automate to seamlessly integrate with those solutions so that we provide a seamless workflow. Like if you think about the role of a support agent, they have to answer tickets all day, right? So they don't have time to go to ChatGPT, upload all of their data sets, then ask the question. They just don't have time to do that. With Power Virtual Agents, you can create a seamless and custom workflow that is orders of magnitude more beneficial than just having a question and answering on your own data set. But aside from that is where I want to wrap up today. I hope that inspires you to build. With PVAs and also Power Automate, and also start with thinking about the problem and challenges in mind. And that is how I think those types of solutions will emerge as winners, whereas a lot of solutions that are being built right now are probably considered hype. So I hope that helps. Thank you. Bye-bye.